My name is Meg Schmitz, and we are launching, we being the collective we, that's you, the audience, and I, are launching a podcast called Free Agent. And the reason I am launching this podcast is that it's really the brainchild of someone I consider to be like a business partner. Tamara Burkett is on this recording with us, and we're going to talk about why the Free Agent is being recorded and broadcast for all of you prospective free agents, or some of you who have already made the leap, taken the leap into business ownership and have a story to tell. So going back in time a little bit, and then I'll have Tamara introduce herself. I met Tamara at a fashion event at Scout and Molly's in Brookfield. It's outside of Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We called it The Girls Who Swirl Rock the Runway.
Yeah.
And Tamara, I think you were a guest of someone else who I had already worked with.
Right. I came in that day to take pictures and post social media. So I remember seeing you for the first time and I thought, who is this lady? Because your style, I think it stood out for me. And your shoes, I think it was your shoes and your purse.
The purse.
Yeah, it was the purse.
It was a purse with the head of the lion that's engraved on either side of the bag. So we met at a franchise fashionista event. And so I had placed the owner of that Scout and Molly's boutique, somebody that I had met through outplacement, at the same outplacement office every month. Because I have so many placements in business in Milwaukee, I started a group called the First Friday Group. And these were originally all the owners with whom I had worked and had helped them to identify a franchise that they wanted to invest in. And as the number of people got bigger and bigger, came up with this notion that because the Milwaukee market wasn't as big as where I owned my first franchises was in Chicago, and there were a lot of us Great Clips owners. We were all pulling on the same rope. We were all waving the same flag. Milwaukee is a smaller market. And I thought if we could pull people together to share best practices on a monthly basis, we would be stronger together, and my placements would know that I'm always there by their side, listening to their challenges and their successes, and helping to introduce them strategically to other people who could help grow dynamically their businesses. The last thing I ever want is someone to buy a business and then get so frustrated that they throw in the towel and walk away. So the First Friday group meets the first Friday of every month. And I think you were the guest of maybe Mark Bader, or I don't know.
There were a couple people that invited me to the group. So I think it was Mark Bader, but I also know Chuck Harris.
Yeah.
There were a couple other familiar faces, which I was shocked when I walked in the door and saw that there were a few people that, I already had relationships with. It was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, the group has really grown dynamically from franchise business owners to any business owner, because whether you're a part of a franchise or independent, you still have decisions that need to be made, situations that crop up that are frustrating. And so now we've incorporated third-party vendors, lawyers, accountants, and then you can talk about what you do and how it is that our relationship got started. So why don't you talk about what you do?
Yeah, sure. So I specialize in CRM consulting and also strategy, and that's really the work I'm known for. And so at the time when I started First Fridays, that's what I pitched, that's what I shared with the group as a whole. But I have a deep understanding and knowledge of digital marketing, one, because that was a field I contemplated in evolving my business into, but also I understood as a small business owner some of the challenges of creating compelling messaging and connecting with the right vendors and understanding what is needed in order for your marketing to work and be effective for you as a business owner. So like when I heard that you were having challenges with with your marketing and some of your experiences with a PR firm, I was kind of peed off, really, to be honest. Like, I hate when that happens, right? So that was one of the main reasons why I reached out and connected with you.
Yeah, and I believe there were two meetings back to back where I kicked off the meeting. Who am I? What do I do? And what's my
Mm-hmm.
ask for the month? So
Mm-hmm.
I am Meg Schmitz, and I am a franchise consultant. And I spent a year of marketing money to get zero leads and zero net impact that was long lasting via viable content that would live on the internet. I spent
Mm-hmm.
a whole year. Does anyone in the group have any ideas of who I should be working with? With whom should I work in order to create more compelling content and outreach that is effective?
Mm-hmm.
And that's
Mm-hmm.
when you and I connected, and it's been a beautiful thing ever since then.
Yeah. Well, and then, like I said, the first time we met at that fashion event, I just right away understood that you were like this badass. And I wanted whatever marketing to really show that side of you because you're such a dynamic woman. And I think that will attract and engage a lot of your ideal client. So it's been a lot of fun for me because it appeals to my creative side to
Yeah.
help you and advise you with the marketing and connect you with different freelancers and people who can really help you with your marketing and move you forward.
Well, I think what's been phenomenal just in the last 8 months, I guess we're in October already, so it's been
Mm-hmm.
10, is all the work that we have done has really been because of your network. So we revamped the website, had new pictures taken, removed old content, have added new content, great content across the different platforms. You've really created a new persona in the way that you have been posting and broadcasting.
Mm-hmm.
What is this brand? Who is this person that
Mm-hmm.
is Meg Schmitz? And as we've gotten more familiar with each other, you recognized the value of that, of the dynamic nature. We're all multidimensional people,
Mm-hmm.
but you really wanted to magnify the badass side of my life and the
Mm-hmm.
multiple things that I'm involved in, having come
Mm-hmm.
out to the farm here and played with chainsaws and log splitters and just
Oh
a whole
yeah.
different side of my life that people in business have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
The country mouse, city mouse life that I live, which over the last 7 or 8 years has, and particularly now with the pandemic and
Mm-hmm.
not spending any time in Illinois anymore at our
Mm-hmm.
apartment, but really just spending it all here on the farm.
Mm-hmm.
The value in sharing via a podcast
Mm-hmm.
and the other social media platforms too,
Mm-hmm.
what it is that we all have to share with each other that
Mm-hmm.
helps everybody elevate and run their businesses more effectively. But by embracing the multidimensional people that we are and
Mm-hmm.
leveraging those skills, if you think about yourself as multidimensional, you've got different platforms that you can take life experiences from one area and plug it into your business
Mm-hmm.
and really elevate your game.
Mm-hmm.
That podcast, this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
is to let individuals who've taken the leap into business ownership talk about the different impacts that well, talk about, and I'll let Matt edit this part. But to be able to talk to really interesting, dynamic people about how they have addressed strategies to
Mm-hmm.
make them more successful. Everybody
Mm-hmm.
runs into the wall. Everybody gets over the honeymoon and has to reboot and pick themselves up. But to be
Right.
able to share those stories
Mm-hmm.
as people who have survived,
Mm-hmm.
left corporate America, jumped into business. Some people have been entrepreneurs all their lives, but we've all had to tap into life experiences in order to make our businesses more successful.
Absolutely. We all have there's different pathways to entrepreneurship. And to be able to identify with someone and resonate with them as a person and see their flaws and relate to that helps us to realize, well, they can do it, we can do it too. And for the longest time, I think business has been very sterile. And I believe the invention of internet has really changed that for all of us, where now we can see you can be insta famous, right? You don't have to be a celebrity or on a reality show in order to monetize uh, your who you are, or monetize your voice. You can do that online, and because of that, it really has brought down people's, well, I don't want to say expectation, but it's allowed us to be realistic about who we are as people and understand that it's important to be vulnerable and show our flaws so that other people can see that in themselves and still chase their dream and have it all. If you're trying to have it all, it's not going to be perfect, right? It's not going to be perfect. There are going to be barriers. And I think a lot of people out here are just talking about what you should do and not necessarily talk about some of the pitfalls and how we handle it as humans,
Hmm.
whether good or bad, but how do we learn from that and keep moving. So I'm really excited about your podcast because I think it will have that transparency that people crave.
And I think you're hitting on a really great point, which is before the advent of podcasts and other visual media,
Mm-hmm.
they're going back a number of years, people would say, "Oh, look at Steve Jobs. I could never do what he did." Well, that's like a huge goal to try to accomplish that.
Right.
But the more there are podcasts and real opportunities for people to talk about who they are, where they started. I mean, let's look at Dolly Parton,
Mm-hmm.
kind of an older reference, but a woman who came from absolutely dirt poor nothing,
Mm-hmm.
utilized her God-given talents and recognized that there were times that she needed to pivot her career. She
Mm-hmm.
was aligned with this one guy, Porter Wagner. She was doing his TV show. She realized that she needed to separate herself away. And I think you're the one who turned me on to biographies.
Yeah.
Look at the content that's available out there. These are all real people.
Mm-hmm.
They put their pants on the same way we do. They they tie their shoes, if they still tie shoes, the same. the
No, we
same.
use Velcro today. No.
I know it's got to be careful about some of these old time references, but people are still people underneath it all, and this pandemic has really made it clear. It doesn't matter if you're the president of the United States or you're a business owner or you're a consumer going to pick up your food at the grocery store. We're all people and we're all afraid of something.
Mm-hmm.
We all get head trash about something. We all
Mm-hmm.
have good days and we have bad days and we get stressed out. And it's the same with every business owner.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the point of view with the podcast isn't just what makes you so great and doesn't it feel good all the time, but real stories from real people who are really trying to make a buck
Mm-hmm.
and live the American dream. So I think it'll
Right.
be inspiring. It'll be just as inspiring for me. Every conversation that I've had leading into the podcast has brought around new revelations about just how fascinating the world of business ownership is.
It is. And again, one of the things I'm really looking forward to in this podcast is the fact that you are showcasing uh, the existing relationships that you have, and you're allowing people to share their talents and their story. In addition to, again, there's different pathways to entrepreneurship. And as being a franchise consultant, you're not limiting the podcast to just franchise people who own franchise. You're opening up to people who started from the ground up, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe people who are angel investors, or all those people who took a different path, but we all have similar experiences, and we learn different things. And it's important that you have a different perspective, and you take those things in when it comes to making decisions, making life decisions,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And I really love that dynamic.
Yeah. The at the base of it all, my my DNA, my genetic code is supporting people, helping them find clarity, encouraging them to try new things. Again, my mother, from lily pad to lily pad, going to
Hmm.
help you take the leap. We want to
Right.
land on the lily pad. So it's all about, for me, it's always been about change.
Hmm.
And and as I get older and realize I have my own willingness to change, there
Hmm.
are more people, for whatever reason, have a fear of change.
Hmm.
And they're used to a job and a paycheck and that comfort of driving the same path to work and taking the same elevator up to their office. And that's great. Business ownership isn't for everybody.
Hmm.
But to your point, angel investors, entrepreneurs, franchise owners, at the end of the day, as business owners, we're putting our imprint on our business, the relationships that we have with our customers or our clients, our employees, and how important it is that, every one of these cogs in the wheel, those teeth have to align in order for success to come.
Hmm.
And yeah, getting down into the weeds of how do you make the cogs all fit? What
Right.
what identifying all of those, particularly now where change is mandatory. We're in a
Hmm.
pandemic. If you're going to survive, you better incorporate a virtual piece into what you're doing. And that's
Hmm.
been a real challenge for some people, but I'm sure 2021 is going to be a lot more.
Hmm.
And you're probably seeing this before. I know you are before I am.
Hmm.
You're seeing
Hmm.
the changes that are coming that
Yeah.
will make business even more dynamic.
Yeah, I see nothing but opportunity out there, and I'm excited. But as you were sharing your perspective, I was just thinking in my mind, like, wow, how long ago was it that Meg had a boss and she was taking that elevator every day, and what was going through her mind? So, how long ago was that for you?
So it was about 30 years ago that my husband, who's now my ex-husband, went to a franchise expo and was introduced to Great Clips, and that's the brand that we bought into initially.
Hmm. Hmm.
It was the third location that we opened where a couple of big things happened. So I was already self-employed running these two Great Clip salons and then opening a third one. And I realized that we were making enough money that I
Hmm.
could step away from my job. But the other thing that
Mm.
happened is that my marriage was crumbling.
Wow.
And yeah, that was kind of it was a bittersweet event. Actually,
Hmm.
it was an opportunity that scared me,
Hmm.
but it was an opportunity to break away from something that had become more toxic and move into yet another layer of independence. So it was, to answer your question, I don't remember what year it was, but it was in the 1990s, late, maybe like 95,
Hmm.
1995, where I quit my job, got a divorce, and was the owner of three Great Clips locations. I promoted one of my employees up to a general manager role so that she was
Hmm.
handling all the internal operations and I was handling all the external.
Hmm.
And then we opened two more, and I was made an offer I couldn't refuse. So I sold all five Great Clips, turnkey operation, to somebody else, jumped the fence into my consulting role, the role that I'm in right now.
Hmm.
Brings me to my happy place. And that's when I realized my new boss was
Hmm.
an absolute slave driver. That's me. So it was kind of funny, Tamara, how I,
Yeah.
how I went from really having a boss. I used to sell computers. My first job out of college, I was selling um, personnel services.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd always been in sales. So
Mm-hmm.
at unit number 3, I quit my job. I didn't have a boss anymore. But now I was running this organization and I had to take responsibility for all 50 whatever of my employees at Great Clips.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really interesting as I work with people who are leaving corporate America and
Uh-huh.
owning their own business,
Mm-hmm.
how just like I did, I carried what I thought I knew about management
Uh-huh.
into my business
Mm-hmm.
endeavors. But then I really had to figure out who was I
Mm-hmm.
as the CEO of my own company, as the employer of these people. And then I began to create my own um, business owner persona.
Yeah. Wow.
I had to
That's amazing.
I had to get rid of my corporate persona because that employer was not creating a good work environment for my stylists at Great Clips. I really
Mm.
had to separate from what I'd learned in corporate America,
Uh-huh.
adopt the franchise system,
Mm-hmm.
learn from the people who'd gone before me, and I really had to rip out of my head my corporate leanings. I'm a corporate person and they're just hairstylists.
Mm-hmm.
They knew that I was demeaning them in my mind, that I carried myself above them.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to get rid of that person
Mm-hmm.
because
Well, it's you can feel that energy. You can kind of feel that. And I know personally I have to be careful of my facial expressions because I wear my expressions on my face, my thoughts on my face. And so there are times where I can be totally in another world, not in the moment, and people can tell that.
yeah,
And people can tell I can be thinking a certain way about this person or making judgments, and it's not even something I'm doing consciously, and that person already can tell. They can, so you have to be careful with that. And being in business, I have to be more aware of that than in corporate. And so it
yeah,
sounds,
yes.
yeah, and it sounds like there was at that time in the 90s when you had the three, you said the three locations, right? It sounds like there was a lot of a lot of challenges and emotions that were kind of like tangled into one that you had to unpack to figure out what was the next best move for you. So, like, can you talk us through a little bit about how you made decisions at that time? Like, was it easy for you to say, okay, well, then the best step is a divorce. It's time for me to step away from my job. It's, were you able to make those decisions right away and stick with it, or did you had to deliberate and things before you decided?
Well, so with the divorce, at that point, I had just my one son, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was something that was brewing for quite a while.
Mm-hmm.
His dad kept saying, "This isn't working. I want out. I never should have gotten married. We never should have gotten married." And
Wow.
year over year, that kind of grates on you.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I had, I guess, an epiphany one day. I was doing the books, so I was
Mm-hmm.
entering all of the data into QuickBooks, and I could see month over month, year over year, how the business was growing and becoming more profitable.
Mm-hmm.
And it was right before our 10th anniversary when my husband said it again.
Mm-hmm.
We're coming up on 10 years. Are we celebrating or aren't we? He didn't say that, but it was sort of
Mm-hmm.
that kind of a tone where I thought, yeah, no, let's not. Let's just call it quits.
Right.
You've asked for it for the last 9 years. We're almost here at 10. Let's just call a spade and let's be done with it.
Mm-hmm.
Then he had
Wow.
regret. Then he's the one who was like, well, wait a minute. I was just kind of saying it I was just being sarcastic. Like, you can't say that for 9 years and be sarcastic.
Right. No, there's some truth to it. You truly feel that way, right?
Yeah. Yeah, there's an element of truth to everything. And so in
Mm-hmm.
evaluating his behavior and where we were in our relationship, were we working together or were we not? We were not. We were not working together. It just wasn't fitting. So making that decision was, I think, part of the financial piece that was the linchpin was being able to look at the financials in QuickBooks and say, okay, I can take enough money out of this to at least pay a basic mortgage and living expenses. I'll be okay. And
Wow.
so really when it came right down to it,
Mm-hmm.
the agreement was no alimony, no child support. You take the 3 great clips and we're done.
Oh, wow. So you looked at it from a financial perspective and said, okay, I can do this. So if you had any questions of whether or not you could support yourself and your son, was it the financials that told you could, you're free?
Yeah.
Okay, that gave you permission. Yeah.
It gave me permission to, because this is all at the beginning of the separation. There was nothing finalized there was nothing about who gets what at that point. And so I was thinking, okay, divorce, alimony, child support, whatever, we'll figure it out. And so as we were working through it, and he said, you're not getting any of my money. However it was going to dissolve, it was going to be, in the beginning we were talking about, well, he would take one salon, I would take one salon. What were we going to do with the other one? He finally said, I don't want anything to do with it anymore. Frankly, I could be done. And at that point, I'd let go of my corporate persona. I was now the employer of 50 whatever, mostly women, whom I came to respect tremendously, how physically demanding it is, the customer service that they were delivering. I had built this organization, and so then I was comfortable stepping into his offer that there would be no alimony, no child support, you take the whole thing. At that point, I was ready to take full ownership of everything. What was fun a number of years later, Eric, my son, said to me, Mom, I didn't know that you owned businesses. I thought you were a stay-at-home mom, like a divorced single mom staying at home. He didn't know that I was running and expanding. I opened 2 more businesses after his dad and I got divorced. And the fact that my son had a mother who was there when he got on the bus and got off the bus, and I could run the business in a way that it didn't interfere with what I needed to do as his parent, that was really, I stepped back at that point and was like, wow.
Wow. Yeah, and you didn't compromise on your values and your expectations of what a mother should look like and do and be for your child. And look at where he is today, right? And a lot of parents would love to have that experience and have that option of being there for their child when it's important, and maybe when it's not important, just to say that whenever I need my mom or need my dad, they're there. They're there before I get on the bus and after I get off the bus, right?
And that's the beauty of owning your own business, whether it's a franchise or not, is having that freedom to, I could have gone way in. I could have gotten deep in the weeds, and like my employees wanted me to go get my cosmetology license so that I could cut hair. I no more wanted to be a lawyer or a doctor than I wanted to go and get a cosmetology license.
Right.
Know your own strengths. The great thing about being a consultant now is that I have that life experience. And there are other ones that we're not talking about here in this episode, but it's what I mean. We're all multidimensional people. We learn from our lives. There are the knockdown, drag out events that happen. There are the glorious epiphanies that we have that are wonderful and reinforcing and make us feel like we're popular or capable or successful. It all goes into being 100% owner of every day.